Hello, welcome back to the More to Life podcast, episode 11. We are now over halfway through 2021. What in the world is going on? It is absolutely mental, but hopefully it just means that you're getting closer and closer to achieving your big goals. The topic of today's episode is going to be to do with the methods that you can use to actually unconditionally fall in love with yourself. And I'll be 100% honest, for me, falling in love with myself is actually a byproduct of one of the main things that I'm going to mention today. It wasn't something I intentionally did, but it was a very, very nice byproduct, and it's something that you have to know. Self-love wasn't the ultimate goal of what I was doing, but I fell in love with myself because I did this thing. So I'm going to stop being all vague now and actually get into it. But first, let's have our win of the week. So the win of the week this week is actually quite an unusual one because it is a social life win, which is so nice and uplifting because going through, a whole ass pandemic for a year and a half, this idea of a social life kind of became a bit of a funny joke, to be honest. And I know for me, it has been unbelievably unsociable. So we've gotten to this point now where things are starting to open up. Hopefully, fingers crossed, everything, is on the up and up from now. But out of absolutely nowhere, I got about 5 or 6 invitations to go out places, to go for coffees, to go for drinks, like a bunch of stuff. And like these were from people that I knew years ago. These are from people who I only knew online, that were like, we had texted quite a bit and we are like, hey, let's actually go for a coffee, whatever. Or old friends, or, not people that I was expecting to be invited out with. 1 or 2 of them were even acquaintances who I had literally never had a full conversation with, but I had put some story up on Instagram and they replied to it. And like, I knew them from school or whatever, but like, what are the chances? Literally all within the period of like a week and a half, a bunch of people reached out and like, hey, let's meet up, let's do a thing. I was like, you know what? Previous Kate, all I can think of is hustle. Kate would have been like, I don't have time for you. I only have time to prioritize me. And although, I still do prioritize myself, but I was like, you know what? I'm actually allowed to enjoy myself as well. What a shocking concept. So I accepted pretty much all of them. And that is a massive win in a few ways because it really made me realize that I have grown, and I've seen that, you know what, even though I appreciate my grind and my hustle, there is more to life than that. There is more to life than the grind. There's more to life than the hustle and working yourself to the bone 24/7. You are actually allowed to go, God forbid, go out and interact with other human beings. Like, what? Especially because face-to-face interactions with people have been so few and far between, apart from like work. So I'm really grateful for that. I'm really grateful that these people reached out, and I'm really grateful that I accepted, because it just shows me that I'm in a different space in my head than what I would have been a few years ago, or even a year ago. All right, so because the main topic today is self-love, I do just want to really hammer down on like why this shit is so fucking important. And I really don't want to throw you off, because self-love is a term that is thrown around so much in this day and age. And it actually can be quite triggering when you're seeing people's self-love journeys. And I'm doing little air quotes right now because generally when you see people's self-love journeys, you don't see the full journey. You don't see the tears in the mirror when they hate their body so much, or you don't see like the depression or the emotions. You don't experience the hard, darker side of it. You only see this part where they feel like a new person and they've done all the inner work, or the self-care work, like deep self-care work, not only a face mask and a bath or whatever, even though those things can help too. But you only really ever see this like light at the end of the tunnel, but you don't see the tunnel. And that's why it can be so triggering for people, because you all of a sudden see people that are in this spot that you want to be in, and it's like, well, hold on a fucking second, how do I get there? If you're not already at that point where you're feeling empowered and you're feeling confident, it can be kind of unsettling to see all these women coming out, or women, men, whoever, and totally accepting themselves for who they are, what they look like, regardless of whether they're in the nicest outfit ever, regardless of whether they're wearing makeup, regardless of whether they're single, whether they're married, whether they are traveling the world, or whether they're still living in their parents' house saving up a bunch of money. I'll put my hands up and say that's me right now. I'm still living in my parents' house. Obviously, it's not the dream, but it is gonna get me to my dream faster. But I don't want all of this to sway you into thinking that self-love isn't important at all, because it's such an unknown. At the end of the day, you are the person that you spend 100% of your life with. So you better start loving your fucking self, because you're leaving a whole lot of joy and fulfillment on the table if you don't. This is going to be a good episode because I'm getting all feisty. And this leads me into my first point. This is the point that I was very vaguely speaking about in the introduction to this episode. And this actually might surprise you. I'm not sure you're going to expect what I'm about to say here. The first way to unconditionally fall in love with yourself is through personal development. Now, obviously, personal development, personal growth is such a huge umbrella term. It can mean so many different things for so many different people, or even so many things to one person. For you, that could mean setting goals and working towards them. For another person, it could mean journaling. For another person, it could mean tracking your progress in the gym and hoping to hit a certain level of strength on a certain lift. Or maybe reading or listening to podcasts that expand your mind. I'm hoping this is one of them for you. And obviously the list goes on and on and on, but you get where I'm coming from. All of these things are such an effective way to fall in love with yourself unconditionally. And let me explain why. Because it's certainly not the first place that your mind would go to when you think, oh, tips for self-love. Think about it like this, okay? If you commit yourself to one of these things, or multiple if that's your vibe, you are affirming to yourself through action that you are worthy of more and that you're worthy of achieving big things. Obviously, I am a big believer in tweaking your language for personal development, your affirmations, things like that. But still sometimes, which we've spoken about already on the podcast in previous episodes, is your conscious mind, sometimes if it hears an affirmation that's a little too much for your subconscious mind to believe, your conscious mind will be like, yeah, but that's bullshit. And you won't actually believe it. But through personal development, it's basically an action affirmation, if that makes sense. You are showing yourself. You're showing yourself through an actual action that you're worthy of big fucking things. And not only that, but as time goes on, as you start to learn new skills or learn a new language or learn to drive or read books that expand your mind, listen to podcasts, work out, journal through your triggers, all this stuff, you start falling in love with yourself exponentially anyway, because you are making yourself a better person. You're making yourself easier to fall in love with because you just become better and better every day. You become this amazing person. I'm not saying you weren't already amazing, but you just get easier and easier to love. You could also say you become your own dream woman. You're getting hotter, you're glowing, you've got shit to say, you add to the conversation, you just become bigger and better. So both of those things are happening at the same time. So you can imagine the compound effect of that is massive. And on top of that, your admiration for yourself is growing and growing because you're going out of your way to put effort, time, sometimes money into yourself. Once again, this affirms your worthiness to yourself, and it's this beautiful cycle that you get into. And it doesn't even have to take that long to be like, holy shit, I'm a fucking powerhouse, I'm fucking gorgeous, I can do anything. And if that's a bit triggering to hear, good. That's your sign that it's time to start now. You obviously do not have to tackle all of the things that I've mentioned at once, that way you'll never stick to it, but pick one and just start. Read 10 pages a day. Journal on your thoughts for the day. Journal on what made you feel like crap today. Maybe you can work through some stuff. Do out a training plan and track your progress and make sure you're progressively overloading in every single session. And I am saying this as if you're at the very start of your personal development journey, but you may not be. You might have been on this journey for a while, and if that's the case, great. Add something in to spice it up. Maybe you want to learn how to make barista coffee. Maybe you want to sign up for a public speaking class. Do something scary like that. When you actually put effort into yourself, you can't help but totally unconditionally fall in love with yourself. Head over heels in love because you know you're a sexy little bitch. All right, tip number 2 is really more of a shift in perspective than anything. You absolutely have to start seeing your life as your life. Look, I get it. Our natural instinct is to fit in with people, to fit in with what other people are saying and doing. And that all goes back to when we were in tribes for survival. We had to fit in because if we were out on our own in the fucking jungle, chances are we're not going to make it. So that's where all that comes from. But nowadays, we don't need that to survive. We can thrive all on our own. And I'm not saying excommunicate all the people from your life. Obviously, people are great. You want to add them in and have them be additions to your life. But you don't want to be morphing yourself into somebody else just to fit in or just to fit a certain standard or societal norm. But again, you can thrive on your own and you don't need other people to survive as such. And if you've ever felt like self-love isn't important, or it might come up for you like, oh, it's not a priority right now, then I would urge you to consider this. For you to fall in love with yourself, it's not selfish. If anything, it's benefiting the people around you because they get to experience a happier, more fulfilled you. Release any guilt around taking time out for you, around putting yourself first. Because do you really want to get to the end of your life and realize that you had a turbulent, potentially even abusive relationship with the one person that was with you the entire time for every single second of your life? Even pause this and just let that sink in for a minute. Okay, hopefully you've had a second now to really absorb that, and I want to move on to the last one, which is probably the most lighthearted and the most fun, I would say. So lastly, for unconditional self-love, girl, get your ass on some solo dates. My definition of a solo date is literally the exact same as a date, only you're the only one there. Take yourself out to dinner, out for a drink, out for a coffee, even to the cinema, and just bask in your greatness and bask in your admiration for yourself because you went out of your way to spend time with you. A solo date really affirms to yourself that you are worth spending time on, you are worth spending money on, you're worth spending attention on. I mean, still do yourself up and do your makeup all nice as if you were going on an actual date. Dress up cute. Like, why the fuck not? Again, it affirms to you that you're worthy of that attention and that you deserve love and attention, even if it has to come from you first. And when you go on this solo date, to make it more intentional, because we're all about living intentionally over here. As you're on this date, list out a bunch of things that you love about yourself, that you're proud of, that you're grateful for in your life. Think about your goals, your dreams, all this amazing stuff. And another thing I absolutely cannot ignore while we're talking about this, girl, sis, don't spend the whole solo date on your phone. Okay? Like, I know you're gonna feel awkward. You're not gonna know what to do with your hands. You're not gonna know where to look. Put your phone in a zip in your bag and just be with yourself. You wouldn't do that on an actual date. You wouldn't be on your phone the whole time because that's rude and you're not giving attention to the person that you're there to see. And guess what? It's the same idea. It's rude not to pay attention to yourself. You're there to spend time with yourself, not to scroll through social media. I feel like I'm giving you a right talking to, but that is something that you're not going to get any benefit from the solo date if you scroll through your phone, and that's just the honest truth. I mean, sure, check it once an hour or so if needs be, but you're there to spend time and attention on yourself. So you should be on your phone as little as you'd be on your phone if you were on an actual date with another person. And don't worry, because you will get used to not having your phone glued to the palm of your hand, and you will sink into that comfort in your own company. You're there to enjoy your own company. So like, you know, enjoy it. You'll relax into it, don't worry. All right, moving on to the quote of the week. I wanted to keep it within the same theme. I tend to do that. I'm like, if we're going to talk about self-love, let's grab a self-love quote, okay? So this quote, this is a good one, right? How you love yourself is how you teach others to love you. And look, I'm going to be totally honest, because a few years ago, I would say teenage Kate would hear a quote like this and throw her eyes up to heaven and be like, yeah, fucking right. I personally didn't see the correlation between how I treated myself and how others treated me, because like how would that impact it? I was more thinking, well, no, how others treat me is based on how I treat them. And I'm not saying that's not a part of it, because obviously it is. You can't be a dick and then expect others to love and praise you. But by putting yourself on a pedestal and not settling for people making you feel shitty about yourself, or people that make you feel extra needy with them because they actually don't give you the attention that you deserve, you very easily brush aside. How do I say this in the most respectful way? You brush aside all the dead weight, all of the tumbleweeds. And I don't just mean in dating, like I mean this in any kind of relationship, friendships and everything as well. It goes for any kind of relationship really. But when you brush aside all these tumbleweeds, you're only left with the people that respect you and love you for you as a person. They're like, yes, I see your value. And on top of that, you won't even feel like you need their love, because you already love yourself so much. You already feel whole. And anything that they can give you is just an addition onto that. It's no longer filling a void in your life. Whew. Yeah, that was a juicy one. All right, let's get to our Q&A. Okay, so the person who sent in this question wanted to stay anonymous, but this is such a juicy question. Okay, they say, how do you love yourself when there are still things you want to change about yourself? Oh, yeah. Okay. I feel this on a really deep level because I've struggled with this myself. I'll give you the brief synopsis. I used to be a personal trainer, which I've said on this podcast several times, and I was in really good shape. I didn't think it at the time, but I look back at pictures now, I'm like, holy moly. And I went to Australia and I put on a bunch of weight. And when I put on this bunch of weight, I really struggled with my body image. And I just was like, I'm a personal trainer as well. Are people going to lose faith in me? Blah, blah, blah. But then I found body positivity. Particularly, I found a YouTuber called Sierra Schultze. If anybody listens to her, or watches her videos and stuff, let me know because we can vibe over it. She's such an angel. But the point is, she would spread this message of your body is beautiful as it is. Like, you are enough as you are right now. Like, there's nothing wrong with you. You don't have to change anything, you know? Don't feel like you have to lose weight. Don't feel like you have to whatever. Okay? So I really got into that frame of mind, and I was still personal training. And I was trying to teach people and coach people through how to lose weight and, oh, eat less of this, eat more of this, do more cardio, all this stuff that I just no longer felt comfortable doing because my beliefs had changed. And I was more like, you shouldn't feel the need to change what you're like right now. You're beautiful as you are. You don't need to lose weight. Like, just, learn to love your body instead. And then I got into this point where I was like, okay, I am really learning to love my body, but there are still things I'd want to change. Like, I do want to lean up more. I like the clothes that I fit in better when I am whatever size. I'm trying to be so careful with my language here, but I found it really difficult for a period of time because I was like, how do I love my body right now but still want to improve it? So I know exactly where you're coming from. But I have really come out the other side, and I feel like I'm in a really good place now where I have the best of both worlds. I'm like, I appreciate the shit out of my body right now. I like the amount it does, and the things I think are really pretty and cute and all this stuff. So but then I'm also working in the gym to improve stuff. So I'm kind of exactly in that place where I have that balance right now. So my advice would be, put your focus on the things that you actually like now. For me, I always thought my eyes were pretty. I always really liked my shoulders. These were things that I hadn't been focusing on before. I was only focusing on like, oh, my thighs are too big, blah, whatever. I don't want to list out a whole bunch of things because we're not about that here. It's about self-love. But pick some things that when you see them, you're like, you know what? I really like this part about me. I really think that's cute. I'm really pretty, or I I'm glowing today. Just like I really like my smile. I like my hair. It looks really good, even if I don't straighten it or whatever. But the more you focus on those things that you actually like about yourself, and I'm using physical attributes just as examples, but this does go for anything. It goes for traits as well. Like, put your focus on the things that you like about yourself. And the more you do that, the less attention you have available to give to the things that you don't really like, that you're not really that fond of. And you won't even notice it happening because you're not giving them attention. But the hatred for it kind of just fades away because your focus, like, you don't have time to focus on it all. You're just focusing on the stuff that you do like. So I would urge you to maybe write a list of things that you do like about yourself, whether it's physical or whether it's to do with your personality or just anything about you. And this is a list that you can add to every single fucking day if you want, every hour if you want. And also to bring in the still improving yourself aspect, remind yourself that nobody is perfect and that you're allowed to love yourself now and still want to improve certain things. If anything, by improving those things, that's an act of self-love because your mind starts to think more like this. You start to think, I deserve to become better and better and better, and I love myself so much for putting in the effort to do that. And at the same time, I'm worthy of love and I'm amazing, and let's be real here, I'm hot as fuck. So for the person that sent that in and for anybody else listening, I really, really hope that helps because that is kind of the thing that people get stuck with a lot of the time. How do I love myself now and still want to change things, or like I'm not where I want to be? But there you go. I think that will help you massively. So here's a quick little summary of today's episode. Firstly, self-love is crucial because you spend your whole damn life with you. Personal development is the most effective way to fall in love with yourself. It might take time, but it won't fail you. Next, shift your mindset and realize that this is your life and that you can do it your way. And you deserve to love your gorgeous self, and it's not selfish. And lastly, take yourself on solo dates. And I will say, commit to it regularly too. If you do it once in a blue moon, you're not going to be able to see any benefits from it. Not that it's a thing that you like want to be tracking benefits for. You really want to enjoy it and enjoy the process. But I would say, commit to maybe each month on the first Friday of the month. Be like, I'm going to take myself on a hot date, and guess what? The hot date is me. And those plans are just as important as plans with another person, if not more important. And don't forget to be intentional. Like, think about how amazing you are. Think of all these lists in your head. Even if you want to bring like a notepad and just like write down like all the things of reasons why you're amazing. These solo dates will really massively amp up your feelings of worthiness. All right, thank you so much for listening or watching episode 11 of the More to Life podcast. You know what to do. Take a screenshot of the episode and put it on your Instagram story, and I'll reshare it to my audience as well. I adore when I see you sharing it. It's just such a heartwarming thing, especially because these are things that have really impacted how I see the world and have honestly made my life so much better, have made me get more out of life. And if I can help you do the same, my God, that's amazing. And by sharing it to other people, we get to share that message and let more people get more out of life. And that's beautiful. If you had any questions throughout this episode, DM me at moretolifekate on Instagram, and maybe your question will get featured in the next episode. And until the next episode, thank you for listening and keep loving yourself. You're a sexy fucking little bitch. All right, I'll see you guys soon. Mwah!